MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, brother.
Mashallah. So, you had some questions, John, or I think you were saying there were some verses you wanted to talk about afterwards, discuss afterwards.
Oh yeah, verse 10, brother friends, like so when it says they equate the people's persecution with God's retribution,
Mm-hmm.
who is
Mm-hmm.
they?
Mm-hmm.
Like are these
Uh-huh.
and I guess I'm trying to figure out like who's who. Like
Mm-hmm.
who it says among the people there are those who say
Mm-hmm.
we believe in God, but as soon as they
Mm-hmm.
suffer any hardship because of God, they equate the people's persecution with God's
Mm-hmm.
retribution. So is this like them suffering any hardship? So they suffer hardship because of God, and then they think that the people's persecution,
Mm-hmm.
or is it the people persecuting? I guess it was.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And what other verses you were saying?
Oh yeah, and then, let me see. I think it was another one. I think it was on the previous page.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
You said,
never
okay.
expect. Oh yeah, yeah. Verse 86. You never expected this scripture to come your way, but this is a mercy from your Lord. Therefore, you should not stop
Mm-hmm.
to teach believers. So,
Mm-hmm.
who wondering who this was referring to
Mm-hmm.
in verse
Mm-hmm.
86.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Mhm. Right. So, I mean, um, so I guess we could go in order. So I guess starting with the one you mentioned, um, you never expected the scripture to come your way, but it's a mercy from your Lord. Therefore, you shall not side with the disbelievers. So I guess it could apply to everybody, anybody who received this information, right? And God is telling us that you never expected this scripture to come your way. I mean, this would be true for you and me. We never expected this scripture. Now that we have, we should not side with the disbelievers, right? So it just doesn't apply to a specific messenger or a believer. It applies to everyone who is receiving this information from God.
Right. Yeah. That was a fast prayer, brother Joffrey. He said,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, okay, okay." He didn't pray yet. Okay. I was like, man, that was so quick. Like
Right.
faster than the speed of light.
Yeah. And so the other question you had mentioned was for the God's retribution, right? This is they equate the people's persecution with God's retribution. So these are the hypocrites. And so the hypocrites are, fair weather friends when they're tested. They're your fair weather friends as well as they're fair weather friends of God. They're both with both the people, and God. They're fair weather friends. So they're just happy when the times are good. They're with you when the times are good. There's a victory, they want to share in it because they want the material, they want the glory, they want the recognition, you know. But when the times are tough, like for example, the time when they're being persecuted, for being on the right path, then they are against you. They're getting upset, and you know, uh, they persecute you along with them in a way by blaming you, and saying that this is all your fault, and these things are happening to us and to our community, let's say, because of you.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So they actually
I
they
have,
well,
go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just like thinking out loud,
Yeah,
like confirming.
yeah. I was saying, like, I could relate to some of these experiences, especially on the last one, where certain things had happened, and I was being attacked, for doing something that was completely justified by God, and I felt was the right thing to do. And of course, I was being attacked for it by other people, and these hypocrites joined in, even though, like, they were hypocrites, but at the time they weren't exposed to me, right? So they were part of the same group, and so they were heavily, how I perceived it at the time, during a time when, like, I guess I could use some support and encouragement. They were
Mhm.
they were on the side of Satan, taunting and attacking and criticizing, and saying, you should ask God, like, why this is happening to you. And
Oh yeah,
like,
when in fact they're
like
actually right. So
yeah,
they're
but
thinking that's
yeah,
God's
exactly.
retribution when they're actually
Yeah, yeah.
persecuting
And
you.
when there was something, the same people, like, when there was something where things were good, like there was recognition for them and stuff, for their community, let's say, and for the work, then they're like, oh yeah, this is our guy and this and that, like, they they were all like, they don't care at that time, and so that's what it means, like, when the, like, for example, in this case with the messenger, when things are good, when they're like collecting, let's say, spoils of war, or anything materially that they could, or benefit from in some way, they're your friends, and they are with you, like they say they're with you and everything. But when things like that happen, God says, they will turn around and start attacking you and stuff, and criticizing you, and equating God's, like, literally, that's what I experienced, like, people's persecution, like, what I saw was persecution because of the stand that I would take. They were literally equating it to God's retribution, saying, look, this is happening to you because you're doing something wrong, and you should find out and fix it, ask God why this is happening to you, right? So, and that, I mean,
Mhm.
and then
So
this
they're so
what,
they're
and
saying
I
that
before that I had never understood that verse, actually, and I saw it, I never paid attention what it
yeah.
means, and then when stuff happened, I'm like, wait a minute, that's exactly what the verse says, you know
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so they're actively persecuting, and then they're thinking that their persecution is God's retribution.
No, no, no. They're not persecuting. Other people are persecuting, but they're supposedly on your side. I mean, with you, right? But on the outside, let's say you're in a group of people, right? Now you are personally being persecuted, or your group is being
Mhm.
persecuted, right? And then they
Mhm.
turn around and say this they turn around and call this persecution, as God's retribution, say this is happening because you are doing something wrong, or our community is doing something wrong. This is a retribution, it's a punishment from God, like a way by Satan to push you on the wrong side, on
To try to
Satan's side,
make
to
you,
stop doing the
to try
good
to make you
things. Yeah,
rescind
to
your
stop doing,
stance.
so that you stop doing the righteous things, and you
Right.
go on to Satan's side, compromise, do, submit to Satan, and stop doing the righteous works, let's say, like, printing Qurans, or doing anything righteous you're doing, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. You had told me about that. They were averse to being the Quran's being printed.
Yeah, but I mean, these are other stories too. There are like
Imagine
many
that.
similar stories,
Yeah, that's
But this is a
crazy.
characteristic that will that you will see over and over with these people. It's not like a one time thing. It's like every time with so many things.
Oh, yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. So then you will know that these people are not believers because they're only in it for the good, for the popularity, for the glamour, for the recognition. They want to be on the winning team.
Yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
It's like that saying, when the
yeah,
going gets tough, they drop out. Like,
yeah,
like when times
yeah,
get tough. I mean, I don't
hmm
know if that was a in the
yeah.
verse in the Quran, but like, yeah, it's the same thing. Like, your true friends aren't gonna, I
hmm
mean, we see
Yeah,
this
the
is
real
like,
believers, they will stick by each other and stick by the side of God, whereas the hypocrites, God
mm,
says they will spread confusion and cause disputes and stuff like that. When in times like these, instead of like, keeping things
now what about
in
people who
harmony.
don't? What about people who don't like equate, like do that, but like they don't take your side, but then they're also hypocrites, right? Like, if they don't join the right side, or I mean, I guess if they're making up their mind or something, that could be different. But I mean, like, if they're still sitting with these people and maybe they didn't take an active stance against you or the message that was brought, and the
hmm
basic message of worship
Mm.
God alone, Quran alone,
But it
etc.
is required.
Um, like, are those people? Those people have to be counted with them, because it's like the verse that says
Yeah.
they waver in between. Is that
hmm Yeah, but I mean,
Mm.
there's two types of people also, right? There's also, for example, like God says, there were people who didn't even show their belief. They were weak believers, and like Muhammad was about to hurt them, not knowing they were true. They were, concealing their belief, right? So there's those
right?
types of situations also. Like, some people can be very weak that they're
Right.
not there yet. But yeah, but there's other people that God says, despite their strength, they choose to. Those are hypocrites also. They choose to be with the sedentary despite their strength. Yeah.
Yeah, you have those ones that choose to, like, because they're socializing with others,
Mm-hmm.
they just choose to be with them. And
Mm-hmm.
there's this one guy in our, like, he's asking continuously these questions that occurs in the other groups.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand this guy is also in that group too. And then it's like
He,
confusing things. And
where,
um
like, in physically, he comes to the mosque. I mean,
no,
to
no,
pray
not
with you
physically.
guys
No, in the
in the
it was in the group. No,
in
he
the
left, of
Turkish
course.
WhatsApp group.
Yeah, he was asking,
Mm-hmm.
not, yeah, like, what was
Mm-hmm.
asking all these questions, saying like, we
Mm-hmm.
have this guy who is
Mm-hmm.
saying that the footnotes are also considered hadith and this and that, bringing confusion and that kind of stuff. Most of the times that happens, when they don't have a firm stand. And that's actually what the devil wants. Yeah, if you don't have a firm stand and clear understanding of the topics, then he plays with that and brings confusion and eventually division. So it's
Mm-hmm.
important to be
Mm-hmm.
transparent and, um, yeah, like, at least that's what I have seen. When you're transparent, open, and you discuss all the stuff, and you have how we do it in the group, like, that's the best way, of course.
Yeah, because it could help other people too. And then, yeah, God says the believers are supporters of one another. They strengthen and encourage one another.
Mm.
Uh, like,
Yeah.
especially, yeah, I'm trying to think of a situation. I don't think I was like trying to think of the situation at work with Suleiman. Like, I don't think uh, that doesn't apply.
Yeah, so I had a question. Let me erase. It was about the verse where God says, "Do not fall back into idol worship after believing." Yeah. So the question is, so if someone believes in the message and becomes a submitter, and since this person became a submitter, does this mean he became a submitter because he deserved to become a submitter? And so how can a person who deserved to become a submitter go back to idol worship again? And does this mean, if that person goes back to idol worship, does this mean that the person actually never became a submitter? Is the question clear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother
Oh,
Solomon. Are you talking? Because his
Uh,
microphone.
oh,
no, no, I wasn't talking,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
but
I
okay.
I,
thought you wasn't
I
saying.
heard the question.
Okay.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. So the question uh, is, if a person's become a believer, it means they. I mean, they maybe they were meant to be a hypocrite. Maybe they were meant to be a believer, right?
Yeah, but hypocrite is actually someone who never believed.
No, hypocrite can be someone who says they believe, but they actually don't.
No, but God
Yeah.
says, okay, so the question is related
No,
to the verse
no.
where God
So
says,
see, when
don't
when
come.
about the hypocrites, God says their example is like one who lights a fire, right? Then as soon as the fire begins to shed light around them, God takes away their light, leaving them in darkness, unable to see. So people, when they come into submission, some people could come into submission like with like a kind of a good heart in a way, like kind of like with a good intention, maybe I would say. They would come to wanting to believe. Maybe they're going through a tough time or something, in life, and they decide to, be with God during the difficult times, or say during the good times, whatever suitable scenario there exists. So some people will come into submission and they'll accept submission, right? But then their doubts will take over. They can't overcome
Mm,
their doubts, and their doubts will take over, and that will cause them to flip,
um,
right? So
okay.
someone can come into submission, accept the miracle, you
But
know,
then it's like a
and then turn to a
newcomer,
disbeliever.
and then actually he needs to. Oh, okay. No, wait. Now, okay. So the verse where God says, when you say that you're a believer, you need to be tested. Yeah, like you need to prove that you are a submitter. So
Hmm.
actually, if we can we say that a submitter is actually someone who proved to be a submitter, who proved himself. Can we say this or like?
No, because a believer is someone who's proven, right. Belief is established. They have proven, right. But God says to Arabs, should say, "I am a submitter," until belief is
Mhm,
established in your hearts,
So you're going to
right.
be tested, and if you go through the test, then
Then you
it's been
you
proven.
then you're a believer. Yeah.
Then you're a believer. But a believer is different than a submitter.
Yeah. When you
A believer is
submit,
someone.
you
Is
For
this
you,
you
you
verse?
are an
you know.
established submitter.
Is
Hmm.
it verse 87 that you're mentioning?
Okay, so you're actually you are actually trying to be a submitter, then you're going to be tested, and
Hmm.
some of those who are going to be tested, they are going to follow their egos, and they are
Hmm.
going to do idol worship, or they're going to let's say follow the group because of socializing or any other reason. Yeah, they follow their egos, they
Hmm.
follow their
Hmm.
um whatever they seek actually, right? And then they
Yeah.
end up and they end up
Hmm.
falling from that
Yeah.
level actually.
Well. Yeah. Sorry.
Hmm. And is this verse then related to that part where God says, "Do not fall into idol worship after becoming believers"? Do never. It says never.
So, sorry, Jeffrey. I spilled some
Oh,
water. What were you saying? I had like this big humidifier, very big, and
Okay.
I toppled it over, and just water gushed out and just wet the whole place. So
Oh, okay.
okay, sorry. Yeah. So do you want to repeat?
Yeah, so basically,
Sorry.
so the verse talks about God saying that after you become, you come into submission, never go back to idol worship.
Yeah. Uh huh.
Never. Don't do that ever, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so then, this believer who became a submitter, let's say, God warns that person that you should not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that even worse? I think that's even worse, yeah? That's why he says, do never go back. Because someone can be an idol worshiper without knowing actually the truth. And then the message comes to that person. He
Mm-hmm.
accepts the message. After
Mm-hmm.
accepting, if you're going to go back to idol worship, that's even worse because right
Mm-hmm.
now you are willingly and knowingly going back to the
Mm-hmm.
very thing that God will not.
Mm-hmm.
He will not forgive.
Yeah.
So that's the worst thing you can do actually. And probably that's why the Master of the Covenant, he said in this group, in the conference that he was talking, in that room you have the most lucky people and then the most unlucky ones, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if let's say somebody idolizes their ego, as it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a hypocrite, let's say, like someone like a deep or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they're hypocrites, and their ego becomes their god, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's also a way that they could become an idol worshiper. Of course, when someone is a hypocrite, they're idolizing Satan, right? Some way, whether it's their ego or it's their family or it's their culture, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and or their
Yeah,
business, etc.
yeah,
Like the
yeah.
verse that says, so it could be any one of those things. Someone becomes a hypocrite. They would also be falling into idol worship. Not just someone
Mm-hmm.
who worships like another entity, like literally.
Yes. And then let's say this person becomes first a submitter. He's going to be tested. He falls into idol worship. But meanwhile, he did also very righteous stuff and he did good things.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we know that when you become a submitter, all of your past sins will be forgiven and they will be turned into credits. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so but this person that became a submitter and then eventually is going to end up and is gonna become a hypocrite or an idol worshiper, God already knows that that person is gonna become a hypocrite or an idol worshiper. So can we then say that actually that person is his sins are not being forgiven actually? Or does it work in a way that God first forgives him, gives him the opportunity because God is fair and just, and He's going to show this in the hereafter? He's going to show him, listen, I give you the opportunity. You became a submitter, but ended up losing the test, and then you became a hypocrite. And actually, I forgave all your sins and gave you credit, but then you lost this opportunity. It was very stupid of you, right? Does it work in that way,
Um. Well, I think so. I think it's important that
or
when we
does it
draw
not matter?
conclusions, like we have to base them based on the Quran, right? And
Yes.
so, like, you don't see any verses in the Quran that talk about, hypocrite, God forgiving their sins and stuff like that. Like it, it doesn't say that
Mhm.
anywhere, right?
No,
So
this
when God
person
talks
becomes a
about
submitter.
no, no, when God talks about someone whose sins are forgiven, means they're wiped off their record. Those are God says who He accepts the sins of forgiveness from. There are people who sincerely repent and reform. God says He forgives their sins. People who sincerely give up idol worship, God forgives their sin. I mean, forgiveness is not just like, let's say you did something today and now tomorrow my sins are forgiven and maybe the next day they're not forgiven, etc. Right? So when you do something, like you have a record that is permanent, right? But
Mm-hmm.
God knows, like, if you repent and reform, that record is wiped clean, and reform means that you're not going to do those things again. If you repented and you didn't reform, God knows you're going to do it again, and the sins will stay on your record, right?
So God
you
already
know
knows that that person is
yeah,
gonna become a hypocrite or like an idol worship.
right.
So there is no reason to forgive
Yeah, I
anymore. So
mean, and the messenger says, like, if you have sins on your record, he says you can't go into heaven. So,
it all will
so
be
if certain sins,
forgiven.
if let's say you have small sins, but God did not decide to overlook them, like God says He overlooks many of your sins, even, right? But let's say there's other sins, like say someone has some kind of a problem, right, and they don't reform, and that sin remains on their record, they can't go to heaven. So God has a mechanism for it. If someone knowingly commits a sin, they pay the price for that in this world. They pay the price. If they did it by accident and they ask forgiveness, then the sin is forgiven, right? But if they did it on purpose, knowing that it's a sin, that sin is there on their record. If it's supposed to be wiped out, they're supposed to pay for it in this world. For it, in
Ah.
order for it to be
Mhm.
wiped out, they're supposed to pay the price.
Oh, you always need
Because
to pay for the sin,
yeah. So yeah,
unless
unless you
unless
committed it unknowingly and you repent of that
unknowingly.
right
Yeah,
after.
yeah, yeah. Unless it's
Yeah,
unknowingly, and
yeah,
then you
yeah. But
repent.
people who are going to hell, I mean, their sins are on their sins are on their record. That's why they're going to hell in the first place, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
how
Also, I
mhm.
wanted to mention, I mean, talk about verse 2, which is this is it says that the
29 too?
test is mandatory. Yeah, 29 2, the test is mandatory.
Do the people think that they will be left to say we
Mm,
believe without being put to the test?
right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so God says that this test is mandatory for all of us. Some people think, um some people have very twisted understanding of what when God talks about tests, right? But these we understand from the messenger of the covenant and from the verses he has mentioned from the Quran, there's several verses that God talks to us about. It's like the test is mandatory. It will test us completely, right, of our innermost convictions, our doubts, whether we're fair weather friends or bad weather friends, or we're not God's friends at all. And then once that is once it's established that we are submitters and we pass those tests, there's no reason for us to be tested again and again. And we see several examples that God talks about how he like makes up to the believers for those tests. you know and then once you reach that stage, then there's no reason to keep pushing you through these severe situations, to keep testing you over and over again. And
Mhm.
of course, God says that these people will experience heaven on earth, like perfect happiness in this world. Of course, if they step out of God's kingdom, let's say they're too busy with something, where they forgot to do their prayer or something. They will have these attention getters where if they stepped out, they'll feel the pinch. So things will happen in that case. But as long as you're living the perfect life of a submitter, doing everything that is expected of you as a submitter, I mean, this is God's promise. that as soon as you pass all your tests, you enter God's kingdom where there
Hmm.
is no headache, there's no problems whatsoever. There's no financial problems, no marital problems, no health
Hmm.
problems, no problems of any kind whatsoever. I mean, he keeps saying it over and over again,
I think we should
repeatedly.
add.
What if you're
We
not
should
married?
we should add something.
No, I'm
Well,
just
if
kidding.
you're
I was just
if
a
you
joke.
if you're not
Maybe it's
married,
a
you
good
should get
thing.
married.
Yeah, it was a
Maybe
joke.
it's a good thing.
Yeah. If you're not married,
Eh,
maybe you're going through admission test because God wants to
mhm.
see, what will you do if you can't be married? Are you going to go and commit adultery? Are you going to
Right.
go, commit
Mhm.
prostitution? Are
Yeah.
you going to, go do other things? Or you're going to stick with God and, be
MashaAllah.
patient, follow God's laws, not give in, you know?
That's-
Um, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should add to what you said, brother. Um,
Uh-huh.
that the message of the covenant, he talks about these tests, and then some tests can be like for 2 months. Someone can pass the test in 2 months, and
Uh-huh.
someone needs like 1 year or 2 years to go
Yeah,
through the test. It's
and
also very
someone
important. So
can do it five
this
years,
may,
someone can do even more. They
yeah,
can go even longer. Like
yeah.
remember
So
this one person who
mm,
used to join our studies, and they said no, the messenger said 5 years and that's it. And
mhm,
then we told them no, the messenger said other places it could take longer, but
mhm,
they never accepted it.
mhm.
yeah, I
Before.
remember
So
that. I
this,
called
Yeah,
it. I brought it. I think I brought it to your
yeah.
attention because I didn't know. I think you
Hmm.
weren't in that study or something. And yeah, we
Hmm.
found other places, but yeah, they were. I
Hmm.
think they were trying to assign like an
Hmm.
arbitrary number,
Yeah,
which you can't really do an
yeah.
arbitrary number.
And maybe
yes.
the animals were talking to them and they told them,
Yeah,
of
So this
alternate
basically,
universe.
so this basically means when it takes longer, it doesn't mean you're being tested over and over again. It's just the test takes a little bit longer. And related to this, maybe
No, I
we
mean if you
can.
can't pass your test, if you keep failing it, it could take longer.
Hmm.
You know, like
Hmm.
it. Well, yeah. I mean, it could. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
it's. We
related to
don't have
this,
a clear
brother.
set of like. You can't put everything in a rule book and like draw the lines, right? Like God
Hmm.
decides, let's say, to test someone for one
For
year.
each situation,
You
yeah,
know,
it's different.
and let's say, but God said, the messenger says actually, if you're good, you can pass your test in a month, right? Admission test in a month, like don't worry. But it says usually it takes about 5 years or so, and but another place he's saying it could take longer. But yeah, but I mean, if I keep failing something, like it's like any test, you can retake it again and again
Maybe Joseph's
until
situation is a good
till you
example, yeah.
pass. Huh?
Maybe Joseph's situation is a good example. He was in
Well, I mean,
prison.
but every situation it cannot be the same as Joseph's, right? Like Joseph's is one example where
Hmm.
he's supposed to serve as an example, like
Hmm.
Job was supposed to serve as an example, like of the extreme end of the
Hmm.
admissions test with extreme adversity, hardship, and pain, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but let's say someone who has difficulty, like with some of the most basic things, or let's say one or two things he needs to fix to pass his admission test, right?
Hmm.
God is gracious, so if he's really struggling with it, God will allow him time. Like at a school where you're going through your exams, right, and you need to pass a paper. Let's say you pass the other subjects and you have, let's say, one or two courses you're struggling with. They're not going to throw you out right away from the school. Like they give you time and chances, enough chances to fix it, right? Like within reasonable time, right? So I mean, God is more gracious than anybody, right? So He has His own system too, in a way where if you are struggling with a test, I mean, you have to pass it, right? But maybe you're not fully there yet. Maybe you need to be stronger and stronger to be able to get over your
Yeah.
problems, right? So until you're there, you will be failing, right? Like even with anything like difficult in life, right? When we're going through them, we don't like always do everything right the first time, right? I mean,
You need to
sometimes,
train yourself.
Yeah,
make your soul
sometimes you have to
bitter.
train yourself. We have to work on ourselves, and with time and with
Mhm.
effort, and we're trying, we get better. So these things
Yeah.
are similar, like someone could, I mean, there could be many examples, right?
Mhm.
Also, the purification process, I think, too, that comes about it uh, during these tests too. Like how
Hmm.
Messenger said, and I've noticed. I'm sure we all have too, but I've noticed the same exact thing. Like when he said he was, I think he talked about being a guinea pig, and he described his experience about, you have a defect that others may not have, and God will take that defect and uh, work on it until it's gone, and then move on to the next.
The
And so,
purification process is, generally speaking, like continues after your admissions test, right? I mean, you
right,
could be start being purified right away, but the
right,
but what
yeah, it's kind of
he
a
calls as
lifelong
the,
thing, I think,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. But only when he talks about like quote unquote purification process, usually talking about like what I mentioned the second time, like after you pass your admission test, you
Right,
could still
need
have problems. You still
uh,
need more polishing, to become a perfect submitter.
perfect and better, yeah,
Yeah. So that purification continues.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
But what doesn't continue is you being tested through extreme, miserable circumstances like or you having like permanent disasters like you losing your limbs and things like that,
mhm.
which many people have lost. Or by entire bodies going into cancer and dying and stuff, and then say, oh, we're just all believers and we're all going through tests and life is full of tests, and they don't believe in admissions test even though they were with the messenger. So
Yeah, that's them
yeah,
placing their opinion above his message.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not smart. And then they try to. It's bad. I think it's worse when they try to trick other people.
Hmm.
Because like people get the message, they want to believe, and they believe, and then uh, that's why God says these hypocrites will have the lowest pit of hell, because you have newcomers and stuff that
Yeah.
probably have been led astray. I mean, I don't know how large these groups are, and
Hmm.
then they're putting the information online, and then that's what probably causes a lot of people to
Hmm.
slip in and out. Um, is from these people. They're being
Yeah.
diverted. But God will eventually save these people too.
Yeah.
Like He'll see to it that they're saved, and that these people.
Hmm. Yeah, then they
That,
said that one person actually told me from their congregation, they said, this, she said, you have no idea. Says, what can, I mean, she was with the messenger. And last time I ever saw her, she said, "No," I said, "You have no idea." He says, "My husband is a doctor, and all my sons are doctors." He says, "Cancer is
most
so
people.
common now." He says, "Cancer is so common now." She says, "We are all gonna die of cancer." She says, and she said,
Really?
"Don't." Yeah, she said, and
No.
she says, "Don't take each and every word the messenger says, like,
That's crazy.
listen to each and every word the messenger says," something like that.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, and I was,
she's
yeah,
literally like that's wishful thinking. Like
yeah,
you're trying to
yeah,
like normalize. It's the
yeah,
same thing like as the
yeah,
homosexuals. Like
mm-hmm,
homosexuals everywhere live, love, laugh,
yeah,
rainbow. It's the same type of like
uh,
playing down, nonchalant.
but
Like
imagine
yeah,
how, yeah, but I mean, imagine how God has, I mean, how God has allowed these people to be with the messenger, and these people have gone astray, and how Satan has chosen them and groomed them in this way so that they could serve his purpose. I'd be like, no, this person, listen, this person is such a senior and such a pious submitter, She takes everyone to Hajj, organizes Hajj trips. Everybody knows probably who I'm talking about, any people who know these submission groups, but I don't care.
not me.
But so she's so righteous, They'll be like, she takes everybody to Hajj every year. She's so pious, and then, oh, her husband's a doctor. All
Yeah,
her kids are
crazy.
doctors. She must know everything about medicine. She's so holy.
No, I mean,
On
me and
top
you
of it,
both.
and
Me and
she
you
knows
both.
what's up because all of them, they're in the medicine field, and yeah, right. Okay, so we're all gonna die of cancer.
No, I mean, me and you both know, especially like that so much is not as it seems. Like, especially when it comes to the medical.
Yeah, I mean, God knows. The thing is, God controls
Right.
every single cell in your body,
Yeah.
right? He controls every cell that's going to get attacked by cancer. He knows every cell that is a cancer cell that's going to be attacked by a healthy, white blood cells. Our bodies actually are constantly eating these cells are actually cancerous cells. There are cancerous cells in everybody right
I think
now
it's like
that are
macrophagia or
constantly,
something.
huh?
Auto is it called autophagia or something?
I don't know, but
Macrophagia.
there are cancer cells that are produced in our bodies. I found out every day in our bodies, and every day our bodies are fighting those cells to kill them successfully, right? And who's controlling that? Obviously, God is controlling all of that, right? But to say that we're all going to die of cancer, like, you obviously don't believe that God controls everything, and you don't trust in God. I mean, these are all people that have insurances and everything, right?
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
so even their pets have insurances, and I don't
And
know, maybe they have insurances on their phones too, and
their pets.
everything else.
I
But
mean, how did these people end up like this? Because I mean, if they were so close to the messenger,
because
they got the
they
message.
don't
Like,
believe, they don't trust in God, and they find out ways by saying things against not listening to the messenger. They say don't listen to the messenger. Then those people, they don't listen to the audios or videos ever, and they say, yeah, we believe in it like it's
but
a
why
blessing.
would
They
they even
never
waste
listen
their
to it.
time? Like, if they're gonna spend
And
all these
then
years and stuff, it just doesn't.
yeah, and then they say no, the messenger didn't mean that, and then I don't know, like, after he passed away, there was a reference to insurance in the text, and somehow it got removed. So we know the messenger didn't remove it because he passed away. Someone removed it, or even if he was alive and it got removed, there were multiple people working on editing. It's easy. Index is like not a big deal, anyways. So
Almost like the same thing that happened with. I mean, I know it's not in the scripture, but like we can see that the Mohammedans, after the time of
uh-huh.
Muhammad, they wanted to put their own
Mm-hmm,
twist.
mm-hmm,
It's the same thing.
right.
They also did it with the Gospels and all
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. So I mean, we were kind of digressing. I guess we're talking about admission tests and stuff. But I mean, I guess this all kind of ties into the discussion we were having about hypocrisy and idol worship, right? As what Brother Joshua was asking earlier. And But yeah, I mean, we have to be aware of the admissions test, and we have to remember that this is a big distinction between the submitters and the hypocrites, because the hypocrites don't believe in God's promise. They don't believe in God's victory on this earth, the success that God has promised us. I mean, with lip service, they may say things here and there, uh, but in terms of having a concrete message out there for the world, like, this is really, I mean, we should not be. It's true that we should not be worshiping God and try to become a submitter just so for the perfect happiness side, right? I mean, we're doing it because we worship God alone. He's the King of the heavens and the earth, and it's our job to worship Him.
Yeah,
We're
out
His
of His
servants,
awesomeness and too,
right? Yeah,
right,
but
and
but
appreciative for our
yeah.
soul.
But the thing is that having that promise, as it is being advertised by God to bring people into submission, that is an important piece. Like, God is telling people, hey, come into submission, all your problems are going to go away. you know your life is going to be peaceful and perfect. But if you take that piece out, you tell people, no, you're coming to submission, you're going to be sad and miserable and pathetic all the time. Nobody would wants to do that, right? I mean, people want to be happy. Everybody's running after in this life, trying to get peace and happiness in their lives. They're doing all kinds of things, and God is telling us, inviting them here, that says this book has the answer to all of your problems, including that. and and someone wants to take that out of it because they know it's a powerful message, you know like if you tell, I don't know about other people, but if someone tells me this, they certainly get my attention right away, to see like what kind of message is this, you know and it is fascinating and it's a good motivator. It should not be the motivator, but we should all strive to be at a position where we pass our tests. I mean, of course, that's a prerequisite for us to go to heaven in the first place, right? And that's a good indicator too of where you stand in your life. If you think you've already made it and you have all sorts of problems, let's say you're sitting in a wheelchair, or you don't have an arm or a leg and or something, you're in disability, I mean, you definitely have, like have all kinds of problems, and you know that you probably are doing something wrong. Like you still need to fix your life, you know work on it at least, but these are people that think that they've made it, like the people we have seen in sermons and stuff that feel entitled to think that they're going to paradise. um yeah, anyways, I think I'm talking too much today. I let you guys chime in also,
It's fine, but Marshall, it's
God willing.
very good to listen to you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's good
That's
information.
that's good.
Everything.
Yeah, so knowing the system is very important because based on like if you don't have the right information about how the system works, and I believe one of the reasons why God sent a messenger and the messenger of the covenant is to explain to us how it all worked, right? Like, for example, he was explaining about the heavenly food and what happened there and why we are here, in a more different way that we could understand, and understand how the system works with, like the 5 time prayer being a meal for the soul, and that it's almost yeah, physical, maybe I would say, that you have the soul, and it can become as big as a city or even bigger. This gives a good understanding of what the system is. Besides that, he's also made the script, right, like where he was um, telling this story, and then especially after I have read the script, I had a much better understanding of the system of God, of everything that was being told in the Quran and what the messenger
Hmm.
of the covenant was given information to us. So then you think differently, right, when you have the right information, and based on that, everything that you do in your daily life, you think of that. So it really helps to know the right information. And like, um and if you don't search for the right information, if you're not really interested, you're not gonna get the information, right, or you're not going to be able to understand it if you don't really care about it.
Hmm.
Like, even after doing so many Quran studies, right, there are still so many things that we try to understand, try to know
Hmm.
how it works, why it's like that, right, try to understand the system eventually.
Hmm. Yep.
The human mind works like that eventually, yeah. Most of the humans, like, when you make decisions, your brain thinks about the consequences, right, like, and then most of the times we are doing it unknowingly, maybe, or like it's autonomously, maybe, if it's right to say.
Hmm.
For example, you don't go through the red light, the traffic light, because you know the consequence is that you can get a ticket and you need to pay fines, right? So because of that, you try not to go through the red light, the traffic light. Um, So our, in general, this is the way how human mind works, right? But if you don't have the information about red lights, about the traffic, about the ticket that you can receive, and there are so many people, they get fined for things that the mistakes they are making, and they don't even know it was a mistake, right? Or you place your car somewhere and then you don't know it's not allowed to park there, but then you learn after getting the ticket as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are totally um, made like that, maybe, right? Our minds. And when you read the Quran and God gives us the example of the things that happened before, and He warns us, and then He tells us what is going to happen in the future, and that there is hell, and hell is going to be created, and there is heaven. So it prepares the human mind for that type of thing. Also, eventually no one is going to have an excuse for it, right? He's going to say, I gave you all the information, you even received this book, and in this book this was mathematically composed, so it was proven text from me. So like, yeah, the whole point is based on this way of God's system to eliminate all excuses. And for the ones who eventually end up in heaven, it's like the best thing, right? Like, you made use of that information. You used your opportunity uh, and saved your soul from going to hell. It wasn't definitely easy, right? Because God says it's not going to be easy. The test we spoke about, God clearly says it's not going to be easy. These are going to be difficult tests. And the measure of the covenant, where he was saying, I don't know if this is off topic, but he knew that he was a messenger for 6 or 8 years, I think. But because it wasn't a commandment of God to tell the people that he was a messenger, he didn't tell, right? Because um, he thought it's not really important to tell people until he knew what it really meant. But he understood that telling people that he's a messenger is a part of the test for the people. But was this a test for himself as well? Because it was difficult, right? He said he said he was afraid, if I'm not mistaken, right, to lose his family members, or that people would say that he was crazy or something like that. Was this also a part of his test? And the reason why I'm asking is, if this was a test for him, and if it took longer than 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, it was 8 years, right? It was in 1980, and in 19, oh no, 6 years. Oh no, I'm not sure. 6 or 8 years. 1980, he
8 years.
knew.
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. Yeah. So if we say that this was a test for him, and it was, I think he said it was difficult, right? So yeah, my opinion is that this was a test for him as a person, because he was a messenger, but also the person, Rashid Khalifa, is also a person, right? And that person is being tested as well, like others, and they have different types of tests, of course. In this case, if he was being tested for having the courage to tell the people that he is a messenger of God, this took 8 years. So a test can be longer than 5 years. If that's the case, this proves that it can take longer than 5 years. If that person, because all of it is predetermined, of course, right? Like, God knew the people needed to hear about the message. They needed to hear about 19 and all of that stuff. And the moment he told people that he was a messenger, there were a lot of um, how to say, people who left submission because they didn't want to accept him as a messenger, right? But was this a test? Can we say this was a test for him, and it took longer than 5 years?
mashallah. Yeah, it was, and then but it was
Hmm.
also a test for the people too, because if you remember how he said, it
I meant
seems
the
to me
first eight
now.
years, yeah.
Yeah, but
Uh,
the thing is, what I would say is um, not necessarily like an admissions test, but it could be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Admissions test to see whether you worship God under all circumstances. So,
Mm.
but the thing is, what he said he was a coward for. He said I was a coward for 8 years, where I knew I was a messenger and I didn't say anything. But
He
um,
was not commanded to say it
but
either.
he wasn't even commanded to say it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
it could be like a weakness too. Where
mm,
he was just weak at the time, and he was like he said,
Mm-hmm.
he literally says I was weak. I was a coward. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
he's in a way saying I was weak.
Mm-hmm.
For 8 years I didn't, but he wasn't. But it wasn't like he was breaking a commandment. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't break a commandment,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't doing anything wrong. And it wasn't like he was not worshiping God. I mean, he was worshiping God.
Because
You
if
know.
it was a commandment, then he didn't had a choice. Because
Hmm.
as a messenger, that is your job, right? Where you don't have a choice actually.
Hmm.
Because if you would have a choice, then you cannot become a messenger.
Hmm.
It doesn't make sense. Then you make your own
Yeah.
opinion, or you make
Yeah.
your own
I mean, you could
decisions.
say, yeah, you can say messengership in itself as an essential test, right? Maybe that could be part of someone's admissions test for sure, right? To see
Hmm.
if they believe in it or not. Because let me go through a series of
yeah, he
tests.
also right. He also had to believe. I remember he said he also was tested just like us, like talking to his congregation, how he has to
Hmm.
believe everything he's being
Hmm.
told
Right.
about the messengership,
Exactly. So
and then
that's
it
what
was
I was,
also yeah.
yeah, so that's what I was getting at. It's like his test was him, like Rashad the man following
Hmm.
Rashad the messenger, that if
Hmm.
he's going to believe that he's a messenger too or not, which he already did actually believe. When he got the message, he believed, like he had conversations with Gabriel and stuff, and like he questioned it, but he believed, so he passed that test. Like, but just the fact that for 8 years he didn't say that he was a messenger, like to me that doesn't mean that like he was failing or something. I mean, it's just something that it wasn't the right time. And God didn't want him even probably to announce his messengership, and when God did, that was when he commanded him, and he did.
Yeah, eventually that was the right time, the time when he
Yeah,
told.
announced.
And there is also one other thing. So we were talking about these pinches, right? Like you become a submitter, you have the test,
Hmm.
and even if you go through the test and you know you you establish the test. I don't know how to say.
You passed the
Um,
test.
yeah, you passed that. Yeah, thank you so much. So even if you pass the test, there can be moments where you go out of God's kingdom, and then you're
Hmm.
going to be pinched by God. Yeah. So
Hmm.
the way how
You're not going to be pinched by God.
yeah, like
You're going to get a
these are
pinch.
yeah, you're gonna
But
get
yeah, okay.
allegorical.
Yeah, you would probably like disintegrate. Like you wouldn't even exist if that was the case. Yeah, I don't even want to think about that. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yeah, God could send me to Netherlands and pinch you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So English is not the first
Yeah,
language we use here. So
yeah. Yeah, pinching is very bad. My dad used to pinch us
Yeah.
every time we did something wrong, Oh my God. So bad. Anyways, you should never do that to your kids, Jaffer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, yeah. So, mashallah, that's
um,
true. So,
so then,
mhm,
um,
go ahead.
um, what happened was this is like I think this is my opinion. So he eventually was given the commandment, or he was given the sign to tell the people that he was a messenger, and then because he received this in a way where he was like he said, I opened the Quran and there was like, okay, you failed, you're gonna go to hell. It was a very difficult time for him, right?
Hmm.
So usually when God gives a commandment, why would God make it difficult for that person? He could say, okay, he could give him the commandment in a normal way. Just you need to do this and that, right? Like you need to tell the people that you are a messenger.
Yeah. So,
So, mhm,
the thing is, like, I mean, this is huge, right? I mean,
mhm,
this is not something easy. Like, this is not something light. This is not like, this is not like, me commanding someone to, go to school or something. Or a child to go to school or something. I mean, you standing up and facing the world and saying you're a messenger, in front of, all these Middle Eastern people and all these crazy fanatics, that you have, right? I mean, that is a huge thing, right? I mean, and that's why he said it
mm,
took him 8 years.
mhm, mhm.
So this is something that is not
even
like
when we
a
say,
easy
even when
thing,
we say
Yeah,
that Rashad was a
mashallah.
messenger,
Yeah.
Yeah, we already
it's
know, like,
very difficult for people.
yeah, yeah,
So.
exactly. We already know he possessed strength and patience. You know
Mhm.
how the Quran says that
Right.
how they possess strength and patience. So he already had that, and
Hmm.
then that adds to the point that you're bringing up, like how big of a thing it really was.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
then God knew. So God knew that that's what it takes, to get you to the point where you're ready to say, "Okay, God, like saying that, I don't want to go to hell, so I'll do everything."
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah, I thought that was yeah, that's a good way to look at it too. Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty much how he described it, right? So he said that he was convinced. He said, "I was convinced," until it kept happening until I was convinced that I was going to hell, and then he started crying uncontrollably.
Yeah, like never before.
Yeah,
Like he was very.
yeah.
Oh,
So you
yeah, he
can
was really
see,
convinced. Yeah.
and you can see why. You can see why this would be so difficult. And see, like, because he can see the types of people he was surrounded. Like his own father,
Mm.
would kill him, or wanted to kill him. Like he literally wanted to kill him, like sending people to kill him. You know,
Wow.
not of the figure of speech. And then eventually we see
Yeah.
that how he was stabbed. Of course, he was martyred, but you could you can see why someone would be you can see why it would be a big deal for someone who knows what he's getting into.
Yeah, and he's a
Yeah,
human
yeah,
being,
kind of
right?
like um uh the messenger who um didn't want to was it my
The
mind went
cave,
blank.
Jonah.
No,
the
Jonah.
cave
Yeah,
messenger,
like
Jonah.
Jonah, like
Jonah.
Jonah. He
Yeah.
didn't
Right,
want
Jonah.
to,
Yeah,
do his
he had a
duty.
100,000 people.
So yeah,
Mm.
Yeah,
That
and
was
then he
also difficult for
implored.
him.
Yeah, he implored from the belly of the fish, the
hmm
big fish.
He
And then
literally
it's
in the
interesting.
fish.
Yeah, and then he said if he didn't resort to imploring a meditation, that he would have stayed into it in the belly until the day of resurrection.
Wow.
So that's so important for us to do the same. Like implore
Can you
both
imagine?
both in the good times too. We should still be imploring for improvements and good things in the good times and the difficult times. You know.
Hmm. Okay, but so here we have this person who is a messenger of God, and then God gives him a commandment. He doesn't follow God's commandment, and God says, and eventually he ends up going into the belly of the fish. And God says that he would have stayed there for so long if he didn't repent. Yeah. So like for thousands of years, he would have stayed there if he didn't repent because of not following God's commandment. So maybe this also shows how important it is and how heavy the duty is, not only for them but also for us, right? Like maybe because we I think we take it sometimes lightly. I take myself as an example. There are many commandments of God, and then sometimes we don't do the commandment because of some reason. Um, or is this like different than God's other commandments? Like telling that, or as a messenger doing a certain commandment of God is different than doing the other commandments like that we read in the Quran. Is this different? Because if it's not different, then why would it be different if Jonah doesn't follow the commandment and he's been, you know, going into the belly of the fish? It's like very heavy. That's what I mean. Is it the same for the rest? I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not the same, right? I mean, everything is not the same. Can't put everything in the same category.
Oh,
There are
so that's
certain
more
things that
heavier,
are
yeah.
big, certain things that are small. Like there's big sins, there's small sins.
Hmm.
Like there's things that are more important, that are less important. I mean,
Because why would Jonah not follow God's commandment, right? Like here you have a person who knows he's a messenger of God, and knowingly he doesn't follow God's commandment at that moment. Because, of course, he's a human being, he can make mistakes. And this also is maybe a way. Many people think that messengers and prophets don't make mistakes, right? And these are examples of messengers and prophets who actually make mistakes. That's one part of it, of course. But when you look at Jonah's part, like, why wouldn't he follow God's commandment after knowing that he is a messenger, after receiving the message directly from God? It should be different for them, right? Than for people who aren't messengers of God, who don't have direct contact with maybe Gabriel, or in a way how they have the contact. And I would just think because he's a human being, his human being side not able to follow until he is being corrected by God. Yeah, that's also something. Because he's a human being, he also needs correction, and God is helping him actually. So basically, him going into the belly of the fish is actually a way of God saving him and giving an example for the future generations. That's why I think.
so are there any other comments or questions from anyone, or any off-topic questions?
Yeah, I had a question real quick about the jinns. The Czar. Um, well, I guess maybe I don't know if I asked this before, but
Hmm.
like, does our companion know it's gonna be free? Like, I mean, because it sees what we see here, and it's our witness, so it knows it's a companion inside of us. Or, I mean, because I think back to what the messenger said,
I
and he
think
said,
like.
it like, uh, it
Well,
is
if you're
you,
talking
like.
right now, your jinn is with you and he's listening.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. He also, like, for
Yeah.
example, if you work for the,
You
if you
could
work
ask
as a
him.
software engineer.
That's kind of what I. That kind of what I was like. Thank you for
No, he
saying.
knows the things that
You're
you
welcome.
also know, yeah. Because,
Right.
for example, if you're a doctor, he's also a doctor. He knows the same information.
Right. So
He
he
has
knows.
the, he has
I
that,
mean,
yeah.
once. I mean, like, so yeah, he believes like he's gonna be free and stuff after a little
Hmm.
while. He knows all that information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had actually similar something about that. I know I ask many questions about, but so for example, we know that they live longer than human beings, right? Like, do they have a specific time period, like definitely for 300 years at least, or can it be more than 300, or can it be like after they are being freed? Can it be like 10 years more, or like 100 years more than the human lived? That's one question. And the other one is like, so for example, the measure of the covenant, his companion is free now. Um, like, does he have also a job to do, like maybe tell the jinns about the message or something like that? Or
Hmm.
isn't that really relevant? I don't know.
Hmm. So your first question was, what was your first question?
How long? So it was
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
when
So
they're freed,
how
how
long?
long they?
So the messenger says that a few hundred years. They live a few hundred years.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, what he said was the jinns that are being freed, those jinns, they will witness the end of the world because it's gonna happen within 300 years, and
Yeah.
usually they live for 300 years. Yeah.
He says a
um
few. They live for a few hundred years. You know, that's what it says in
mhm.
the
Footnote.
appendix, right? Introduction, I
Oh,
believe. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So
So
we wouldn't
the
be
fact
seeing a
that,
1,000 years.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, the fact that the world is going to end, all of our jinns are going to be there. You know.
They will
Yeah.
witness it
Yeah.
because they will still be living at
Yeah.
that point. Yeah.
Right.
So they will witness.
Hmm. And
Actually,
the thing is, we're also going to witness.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was about to ask. We're gonna witness that too, like the sun and the
Yeah.
moon
Yeah.
crashing into one another. There's
God
gonna
says
be
on
an
that day, their
eclipse.
bodies are going to be restored. You know, like
yeah, but yeah.
after the
uh,
second horn is blown, you know,
mhm,
then all of us are going to come back to this world
mhm.
and see the destruction. You know,
But it is possible that, like I'm talking about before, not really relevant or important, but they could have lived also for 1,000 years, for example.
no,
And the
no, not
oh
thousand
no,
years. Says they
oh
live
okay.
a few hundred years. That's the
And
lifespan of the jinns. You know, a few hundred years.
yeah, so this also means, for example, if they were living when Moses was sent, they could witness the miracles of Moses. They could witness the miracles of Jesus, or
No,
or is
Moses
that
and
possible?
how far are Moses and Jesus in terms of timeline?
Seems like
Like
over 1,000.
a
Yeah,
thousand years. Oh,
so
or
they
Jesus
couldn't
Yeah,
have.
at least a
and
1,000.
on the Quran.
Yeah, so they
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
have.
Oh, okay. That's a long time, actually. 1,000 years between Moses and Jesus. Very long time.
Yeah. So going
Okay.
to your second question,
Hmm.
you were
Yeah.
asking about your second question, right?
The
Which
Messenger of the
was
Covenants, Jinn.
the messenger of the covenant. And yeah, so actually, the messenger of the covenant, like I don't know, like we maybe I feel like we're asking too many questions about the messenger of the covenant. Like the messenger of the the messenger of the covenant is like the,
Leave him
you
alone.
know, we should not like kind of focus too much on the messenger of the covenant. In my personal
Mhm.
understanding, you know, because we could be kind of coming off as those
No,
traditional
it's
Muslims who
no,
are
no.
like,
It's about his
yeah,
messengership, actually.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I know, but we talked a lot about the messenger. So, so I mean, the thing is, the messenger, he also was talking about the fact that all the jinns, in the jinn, you know, the verses that say the jinns listen to the Quran, right? So
Mhm.
they already knew about, the message after listening to him,
He
and
said
so
all the jinns know it already.
so he said by now, he says all the jinns, they know about the message because you know the jinns are,
Yeah.
different entities or different physical qualities than us. They move around very fast, and like for us, like it's like if today I'm here, the next minute I will be in another corner of the universe. So it's like they're all in one big room. Imagine, it's like when it's like when human beings all over the world, they started getting on the internet, and everybody knows about everything that's going on anywhere in the world, right? So it's kind of like with jinns. He says now,
MashaAllah,
because
very
they
good
they
example.
they have different dimensions and everything in terms of how they're built and their physical abilities and all that. So they all know the message. All the jinns, he said, they know about submission now. And he knew that from the fact that those jinns came and
Came.
listened to the Quran.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the
Mhm.
jinns, they already know.
Not only about the Quran, but also about the miracle of 19. And they will
Yeah. Yeah. Of course,
pass the
they know.
information to
No,
the
he says
new.
they know about the message.
Hmm.
They know about the message of submission.
Yes,
Brother
mashallah.
Brother Joffrey's probably wondering if they're listening to our Quran study. I'm just kidding. I was kind of wondering, but it
Uh,
doesn't matter. It doesn't
I
matter.
mean, they could if they wanted to.
Hmm.
You know, they could
Maybe
be
they'll have their
here.
own. Maybe they'll have their own
They
Quran
could be in your
studies.
room and listening.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the rules count for them as well. The Messenger said,
Now John is
when
gonna come out of the room.
there's a Quran study and you're 50 miles,
Like, I don't
I'm
want to be
already,
there on my
I'm
own.
already out the room, but I don't want to go back in now. I'll just stay down in the kitchen.
Mhm.
but very good example, brother. Mashallah, thank you.
Thank you. You're good.
When you're a software engineer, you can give these good examples.
Which example?
uh,
MashaAllah.
yeah, it was with, that when you in this world, you have no
Mm-hmm.
communication.
Uh-huh.
People are using phones and internet,
Mm-hmm.
and we have information about stuff happening across
Mm-hmm.
the world. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
mashallah.
All right. So, thank you, I guess, all for joining us. If there are no other comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude our study. And God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God willing. So, uh, we'll see
Thank
you
you, brother.
next time.
Mashallah.
God willing. Take care. God bless.
God bless. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, John. Oh,
Thank you, Brother John. Thank you, everyone.
thank you too, Suleiman.
Assalamu alaikum. God
You
bless.
too.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
You too, Martani.